Hey guys, welcome to Mikey's Video Game Madness. This is Michael or Mikey, whatever you want to call me. But this is my personal pick of the best games of 2012. You may agree, you may disagree. It's cool. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. So yeah, so to start off, I am going to pick something that a lot of people are going to disagree with. Too bad, I'm picking it. For number 10, Resident Evil 6. I enjoyed this game thoroughly. It had a long campaign, which is really rare these days unless it's like a RPG or something like that. And I like that. I hate it when a game comes out, you get like a 6-hour like single player campaign and then everything's geared towards multiplayer. That is not the case for Resident Evil 4. It has multiplayer, usually with two at a time, co-op, but sometimes you get in like these crossroads because you can select different characters and they go on different missions. So sometimes you'll come across like other characters in their own campaign and then help each other out, which is cool. I've never seen anything like that in the game, like two separate campaigns merging just for this one part when they cross paths. That's really cool. It's fun. The creature designs are really interesting. The graphics are really nice. It's not the suspenseful Resident Evil that you're used to. The Leon Kennedy's missions are pretty suspenseful in some parts. It actually has zombies again, which is kind of cool. And I didn't like Resident Evil 5, so Resident Evil 6 is one to definitely check out. And like, you can use this as a guide for getting your significant other or kid or whomever a gift. I might hold off on Resident Evil 4 because, as I'm noticing, it's not for everybody. But the thing is, like, I think a lot of people that are reviewing games are kind of jaded and they're trying to compare like games to other games unfairly, and Resident Evil 6 is a fun game. I see nothing wrong with it. It's clunky, but I've seen a lot of higher rated games that have worse problems. Like, at lowest, this game deserves like maybe a 7 out of 10, but I'd go as far to give it an 8.5, maybe even 9. I enjoyed it a lot. You might call me crazy, but whatever. Alright, number 9 is Sleeping Dogs. A lot of people didn't get this game, and you're missing out because you didn't get this. This game's like Grand Theft Auto and Hong Kong. Basically, you play as an undercover cop that's trying to infiltrate the triads and see what they're up to, and you can either decide to be a good cop and not do anything bad, or kind of be sleazy and follow some of the stuff the triads are doing. And you earn different points based on whether you do good things or bad things, and people will treat you a different way depending on that. It plays probably exactly like Grand Theft Auto in terms of going from place to place, like on your radar, to complete a mission, but it also does a lot of things better. I think the driving mechanics of Sleeping Dogs are a lot better. The graphics are, I wouldn't say they're necessarily better. They have their own unique style, but it's cool that it's in Hong Kong and it has like this neon light, like market kind of feeling of Hong Kong, and all these people bustling around doing different things. It feels very different because Grand Theft Auto always takes place in like an American based city, even though they're fictional. Although there was a London expansion pack a long time ago for the first Grand Theft Auto, but that's a different day, different story. But yeah, I would definitely check it out. It also has the awesome kind of a battle system of Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, where you get like that some sort of indicator to let you know to do a reversal, and they'll like fight people with your bare hands, and it just works awesome. It also has shooting mechanics. I wouldn't necessarily call those the greatest, but they're functional. All in all, it's a great game and you should definitely check it out. Our number 8 is Resident Evil Revelations for the Nintendo 3DS. This game is like Resident Evil 4 and Resident Evil 5 as well, I guess. and the way that it's the third person view and you can stop and aim your gun. The difference is this one comes closer to the older Resident Evil games in terms of limited ammo and suspense. It's a really good game. You play it like as 3 different characters basically and their point of view. There's some action parts in it, but the rest of the game feels like, especially the Jill Valentine levels, actually feel like older Resident Evil levels where you're stuck in this huge ocean liner thing. It might be a cruise ship, I can't remember, but it's a really good game. And if you don't have a 3DS, don't sweat it. I heard that they're actually bringing this to consoles, but Resident Evil Revelations is probably one of my favorite games on the Nintendo 3DS and one of the reasons to own the system right now. Alright, number 7 is Max Payne 3. If you played Max Payne 1 and 2, you know what you're getting into, except the physics are a lot better, the environments are more destructible. Obviously it looks nice. The story is actually pretty decent. It has that noir feeling. Not as much as you say LA Noir, because I think that game's almost perfect. I know, I'm one of the few, but I thought it was amazing. The only thing that's missing from the other Max Paynes that I do miss is being able to interact with the environment. Like in Max Payne 3, not Max Payne 3, in the older Max Paynes you actually could walk up to a cabinet, open it, like if there was anything around you could kind of interact with it, and sometimes you can interact with a piano or a TV or something like that, but it's far in between. But it replaces that with the super destructible environments, which is really cool, and it takes out the graphic novel feel and replaces it with like these cutscenes that are like in blocks, and it has like this fuzzy discolored TV effect. So it works, and the story is interesting. It's fairly long. It's made mostly for the single player campaign, which isn't terribly long, but it's not terribly short as in Call of Duty, in my personal opinion. And Max Payne has always been about the single player experience, and it delivers. For some reason, not a lot of people purchase this game, and I think that's because the date kept on being pushed back, and I think people just genuinely forgot when this game was coming out, and then it just came out of the blue. But if you haven't picked up Max Payne 3 yet, I highly recommend it. It's an awesome game. If you like noir, why don't you own it yet? Or if you know somebody who does and doesn't have the game, it's a good choice. Number 6 is Dishonored. It's a first-person stealth game. I don't want to call it first-person shooter, although you have a gun, but you only have like 5 bullets in it at a time. It's actually closer to like the older Deus Ex and the Thief games. I say the older Deus Ex because the new one that came out has a lot more gunfights and stuff like this, but this kind of takes place in this really cool steampunk universe that reminds me a lot of BioShock, which is really cool, and there's more than one way to do something, and you don't ever feel restricted in this game. And it has 2 separate endings, because you could go throughout the whole game basically without killing anyone, or you could kill everyone, and that'll actually determine the ending of the game. And it just looks cool. The graphics aren't the best, but the art style is amazing, and you just want to see what's going to happen next. And you get these supernatural powers like teleporting or letting rats eat people. It's a good time. I definitely recommend it. You should check it out. Number 5 is The Walking Dead. This is actually becoming game of the year to some people, or some editors or whatever. And this is technically an adventure game, but it's more like a story. There's not one puzzle that you couldn't really figure out. It's not like Monkey Island where you have this ridiculous combinations of stuff to figure out. It's about the story. It's not based on the TV show. It's based in the comic book universe, which is cool. Like, I think it's more appropriate since it's story driven, because I think the game based on the TV show is going to be a first person shooter or something weird like this. This game is based on like just meeting characters, surviving. You have this girl that you have to take care of. You don't know what's gonna happen. You don't know who's gonna live or die, and you have to make decisions at the flip of a hat. Like, you literally have like 4 buttons that give you choices, and you have to make them real fast. there's a lot of different kinds of ways the game can end. You actually can die on this game, and by the end of the game, like, if you talk to two people, like, they might have had like a completely different experience, because there's a lot of variables and the game can change just like that, and it's worth playing several times. The story is one of the best that's been in a video game for quite some time, and I don't want to get too much into the story. I know it's an adventure game, but it's awesome. If you don't believe me, look it up on the internet and see the reception of what other people think. It's awesome. That's all you need to know. Right now you only can download it, so if you wait a little while, it's actually going to come on disc, which I would prefer, because waiting for the episodes when they were coming out were a bitch. And if something happens to my PlayStation because I downloaded it because I didn't want to wait, like, it'll suck if I lose it forever. But in the time being, it's actually pretty good, and they're actually coming out with an episode. Not an episode, because episodes are what came out, but they're actually coming out with a new season. I'm curious what that's going to be like. So, The Walking Dead available for the PC, I believe iOS, and PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. If you haven't seen anything about it, check it out. I definitely highly recommend it. You can get it for around $20 on online to download, and it'll be about $20 like to buy on the disc. And actually there's a special edition of the disc that comes with like a book containing like the first like few like issues of the comic book. I'd say a few, but a lot of the issues I don't know exactly. I have like both books, and it's each one's like 1,000 pages, so like if you get that combination, it's definitely worth the money, because the game's only like $20. I think with the game with the book is like 60, and like the book's like $59.99 or $69.99, so you're basically getting your money's worth if you get the special edition, but that's up to you, and I don't know if you're still able to get it or not. Alright, number 4 is Theater Rhythm Final Fantasy for the 3DS. Now, this game probably will only appeal to 2 different people. One person that it'll appeal to is somebody that likes rhythm games. The other person is somebody that likes Final Fantasy games. Me, I kind of like both. So I thought this game was awesome. It's not mind-blowing. It doesn't do anything particularly different, but it's very nostalgic. It goes from the first Final Fantasy all the way to Final Fantasy 13's music, and shows cutscenes of all the old games, and it feels really nostalgic. It makes you want to pick up the games and play them all over again. And it has like a simple touchscreen mechanic, and it's pretty cool, and you actually can download songs for it, which I've never seen on a handheld system before. I don't know why this game didn't come out just on the Nintendo DS, because it doesn't do particularly anything amazing 3D wise, although I don't think the DS is capable of decent sound compared to the 3DS, but it's an all-around good game, and I just find myself continuously playing it over and over again, especially when I'm not at the house. That's usually the game I'll bring with me, and it's just over time like become probably my favorite 3DS game ever. So, even over Mario, I just like it. But like I said, it's probably because I'm a Final Fantasy fan, and it probably will not appeal to somebody who's not into rhythm games or Final Fantasy. So keep that in mind if you're giving it as a gift. Number 3, Assassin's Creed 3. I played the other Assassin's Creed game. I've owned like 1, and then I own Revelations, and now 3, and I just like Assassin's Creed 3 because it wraps everything up story wise. It takes place like in the US, like during like the times of where the Declaration of Independence were being written. You run into George Washington, Benjamin Franklin. Like basically here in the US at least, we had to cover American history, and it was super boring. I didn't like it. the only kind of photographs you got to see were paintings or drawings or whatever, and I hated it. But now that I'm actually playing this game, I mean, it's not historically accurate by any means, but to be able to walk in like a colonial version of like Boston and New York and stuff like that is super cool, and I don't know, it appeals to me more. It reminds me of my field trip to Jamestown, and I like how you can go into the forest, which is huge. It has like a Skyrim feeling to it almost, where it's open-ended, and you can go and skin animals, make booby traps. It's so open-ended. It's the biggest game in the Assassin's Creed series, in my opinion, but I'm sure that's pretty accurate statement to say. And you can pilot a boat and go on naval battles and find treasure and stuff like that. It just has everything that you would want in that type of game. The only downfall of it is some of the stealth missions are kind of bullshit and cheap, like when you get caught, but that's normal in typical stealth type of games. So definitely check that out. Like, I highly recommend it. I mean, it's number 3 on the list, so it's a pretty good game. I don't want to get into the story, but you play as different characters throughout the game. It's really cool. It's really cool to see the changing of the seasons, which is pretty rare for a game. Like, one minute you're outside and it's summer, and the next minute it's snow, and the graphics, let me tell you, are unbelievable. Like, when you're in the snow, like, you can see like a path that everywhere you walk through the snow, and I'm not talking about footprints, I'm talking about like a dug in path, kind of like on Uncharted 2, but more to the extreme. And the water looks really good. Like, this game basically pushes the current consoles as far as I think that they possibly can be pushed, and I highly recommend it. And it hasn't been out that long, but I'm still putting it as number 3 on my list. And this is number 2 is an even more controversial choice because it hasn't been out that long, but I absolutely love this game, and this is Far Cry 3. It's again in an open world. I did not like Far Cry 2 that much. There was a lot of pain in the ass stuff, like having malaria, trying to find pills, spawning enemies after you kill everybody around like a save point, having like very rare far apart save points. And this game just fixes everything. It reminds me of the old Far Cry, where it takes place in a tropical universe, like a tropical island. Pretty much you play as like a frat boy and a bunch of his bros, and I guess their girlfriends or whatever, and they get abducted by pirates, and he escapes. And what's cool about the game is he starts out like really crappy at shooting guns and throwing rocks, so the more you play the game, you better you get at stuff, and then before you know it, like, you're no longer hiding in the bushes. You can just go ambush people and just take down a whole village like it's nothing. And the game's not necessarily more easy the farther you go, it's just he becomes more experienced and you can be less stealthy, and it's just really fun, and unlocking stuff and going on side missions and hunting's really cool, and discovering ruins. And this is probably the best looking PlayStation 3 game I've ever played. I'm sure that it looks just as good on Xbox 360, just like Assassin's Creed. I don't think that you could push the system's graphics any further, and I can't recommend Far Cry 3 enough. Like, if you see it, and there's a good chance that whoever you're buying for doesn't have the game because it came out this month in December, just in case you're watching this late. So I highly recommend it. Like, I read online, like, that I totally agree with. It's like Skyrim with guns, and it's cool that you can actually like hunt to make wallets and stuff out of like the animals that you hunt. And it's still one thing I did like about Far Cry 2 that they kept in Far Cry 3 is the little fire effect. Like, if you use a Molotov cocktail or like a flamethrower and catch the grass on fire or a wooden hut, it basically spreads, and that's awesome. And I can't ask for a better first person shooter. Now, number 1 is probably one of the best series ever made, and I hope that when they start making new games for it, it holds up. But this game series is so good, like I don't know if they can make it better or even as good. And since it came out this year, I'm gonna say Mass Effect 3, but the trilogy actually came out this year, and I highly recommend you playing the trilogy. This has the best character development of any game I've ever played, besides like an old school RPG that has like a novel's worth of like dialogue in it. And you can kind of tone down the RPG elements. Mass Effect 1 kind of relies on a little bit, but 2 and 3 are are basically perfect. 1 is really good, not as good as 2 and 3, but it's essential. Like if you just have a Wii U and you only can play Mass Effect 3, I understand there's like some graphic novel type deal that you can play that loosely tells the story, but really going back and playing the trilogy from the beginning is really the way to go, because that's what I'm doing right now. And you can choose between a guy or a girl, and people will treat you completely different based on that, and there's just so many variables. The game remembers what character dies when you go into the sequels of the game, so it's a fun little shooter. It's not like destructible environments like Call of Duty, but it compensates with stories, side missions, and you really care about these characters, and when they die or when you talk to them, you can have relationships with characters. And it's just a mixture of like Blade Runner, Star Wars, Star Trek, and maybe John Carpenter's Escape from New York. It's just awesome. It's epic. And when you get to Mass Effect 3, you just really don't want it to end. You know it's to the conclusion, and it's such a build up if you played the first 2 games. I highly recommend, if you don't have like all the games, either get the games that you don't have, or just if you don't have any, start the trilogy. I'd hate if Mass Effect 3 was the only option. Mass Effect 3 is an amazing game, and like I said, almost perfect, but there's just so much more that, and excuse me, I'm stuttering here because I'm recording myself and I'm trying too hard about thinking what to say, but you have more of an established relationship with the characters, and the music is absolutely fantastic. It kind of sounds like a mixture of the music from Blade Runner and like a John Carpenter like composed movie, like the old ones from the 80s where it's really synthesized or composed, and it's just amazing. I would pick this probably the best game of the entire decade. I can't say anything bad about this series. Definitely play it. Like if you consider yourself a gamer, like you need to play this series. No excuses. And for you people that aren't necessarily good at shooting games and stuff like that, you can pretty much tone the difficulty down where it's pretty much easy as crap. And like especially in part 3, although I don't recommend it, there's like a story mode where you basically don't have to fight most of the time at all. But I definitely recommend playing 1 to 3. You'll get a better experience out of it. You'll understand things better. You'll see the things instead of looking at a graphic novel. So if you have the other systems beside the Wii U, definitely play it on the other systems. Like I would hate to start on part 3, even though part 3 is good and it probably explains what it needs to, but again, there's so many variables, and having the characters survive or die based on what you do actually means a lot. So that's my number 1 pick, and more than likely if you're shopping for somebody, they probably already have this game. But if they don't and they like a shooting game, or if they're into RPGs, like, and they don't have this game for whatever reason, definitely pick them up the trilogy. They will not be disappointed. Now so for next year, I'm curious what games you guys are looking forward to, and I know a lot of you guys are retro gamers, so if you're not looking forward to, let's say, new games, what older games would you like to play? You know, what games are you looking forward to? List 10. These are in no particular order. My last list was in order of like from good to best. This one's in no particular order, so I'm gonna read off the top 10 games that I'm looking forward to, and I would like to hear from you guys about what you're looking forward towards next year, because I'm just curious. And seems like there's a lot of first-person shooters that are coming out, because I noticed like most of the games on here are first-person shooters, which is nuts. But I'm gonna read off my list. Number one, I'm not even gonna list the numbers because they're irrelevant. Like I said, this is out of order. Alright, the first game I'm gonna mention is Aliens Colonial Marines. I love the Alien series up to 3, then the series is dead to me, especially the Aliens vs Predator game. There hasn't been a strictly Alien game since, I believe, Alien Trilogy, which is really bad. It doesn't have Predator in it. It's a actual canon sequel to Aliens the movie. It's made by Gearbox. Beside Duke Nukem is a pretty reliable like company to get a game from. Like, they really didn't make Duke Nukem. They just finished it, and they just came out with what I haven't played yet, but what I hear is awesome. Borderlands 2, and I'm just really looking forward to this game, and I hope it delivers. I hope I don't end up disappointed. But I've been looking forward to this game for gosh knows how long. Like, I think they've been promising this game for like 4 or 5 years, and they just keep on pushing back the release date. But apparently it's finally coming out. The only thing that looks negative is the graphics look a little bit dated because it's been in development for so long. But if it sticks to that whole Alien feeling, like even the set designer of Aliens is actually helping out, and Gearbox actually went to Ridley Scott, which they're supposedly taking credit for making him want to film Prometheus, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I finally get to play it. I hope it's awesome. Next on my list is Last of Us. I think that's going to be on a lot of people's lists that have a PS3. I mean, it looks like a mixture of a zombie survival game and Uncharted. The graphics are awesome. The gameplay looks awesome. It looks pretty brutal. It's a way more mature, serious type game, and I'm definitely looking forward to it, and I can't wait to get my hands on it. Naughty Dog, in my opinion, I guess after their bad track on 3DO when they made the Way of the Warrior game, which is terrible, hasn't really made a terrible game. So I'm looking forward to it. You guys probably know everything there is to know about it if you know what that game is, and I'm looking forward to it. The next game on my list is BioShock Infinite. I know there was a BioShock 2, but that was made by a different company. To me, this is like the real sequel because this is made by the same people. I doubt that it takes place in the same universe, but it looks like, to me, like the next step of what BioShock should be, instead of like BioShock 2, which just a rehash of the first game. And I'm really excited. The art direction is unbelievable, and the graphics are good, and good graphics are great, but the art direction is even more intriguing because you can have pretty subpar graphics and have amazing art direction. That art direction makes the game look that much better. And just the design, the idea of like a city in the sky and having someone without terrible AI like actually assist you and talk to you and stuff like that, like you're actually in the game. I think the last time that they had anything like that I actually enjoyed was Half-Life 2, and that game was amazing. So if it has any of that feeling plus BioShock, I'm down. I have no doubts in my mind that game's going to be amazing. So that's one of the games looking forward to. This game, I doubt that as many people looking forward to, is Lightning Returns Final Fantasy 13. It's basically Final Fantasy 13-3 or Final Fantasy 13-3, whatever you want to call it. It's basically the last chapter of the Final Fantasy 13 trilogy, which I'm one of the few people that really enjoyed, and you get to play as the main protagonists of the first game, which you really didn't get to do in the second one, and I'm just looking forward to it. I don't want to get in too much detail because you either know what I'm talking about or you don't, and most of the people on my channel that subscribes aren't really into RPG games, but it's just a sequel. I don't expect anything just drastically different beside a altered battle system. It has, I heard like there's more reliance on the times of days and like events that you might not miss, but there's not a whole lot of information. But I don't think it'll be crappy. I hope I'm right, but you know. But so far, Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2 have been good, and I'm just looking forward to the third one. Alright, another game, Beyond Two Souls. If you have a PlayStation 3, this is probably on your list. It's made by the people that made Heavy Rain, which was an amazing game. It felt really cool, and probably the most cinematic game that you actually were in control of that I've ever played. And it was kind of weird. It almost felt like, if you ever watched that show Twin Peaks, where it kind of has a surreal, serious vibe, but some of the stuff is kind of odd. It was like a murder mystery, and this is Beyond Two Souls. It has Ellen Page, and it looks exactly like her, and she actually motion capped everything. If you don't know what Ellen Page is, if you ever saw the movie Juno, or what the heck was that game, or I mean movie, where she was in roller derby, like, I can't think of it, but and if you ever watched Trailer Park Boys, she was the Mr. Leahy's daughter in the second season. It's kind of bugging me. I can't remember the movie because I actually own it. 1 second, let me check. You guys can talk amongst yourself. There it is. It was Whip It. Why I couldn't remember that, it's probably because I'm talking on here and trying to think of what to say. But if it's anything like Heavy Rain, and then you have like some sort of supernatural entity that's with you, I don't know if that's who you play as. There hasn't really been anybody that's got their hands on it, but I'd definitely check it out on YouTube to see how they made it. And it's, I was saying that Assassin's Creed 3 and Far Cry 3 are the best looking current gen games I've seen. Well, I think that this game might give them a run for their money. Last of Us looks really good too, but I think after seeing the Uncharted series, you're gonna pretty much know what to expect. And from what I've seen, like, it looks really good and everything, but I think that Beyond Two Souls might kind of tip the scale a little bit. I guess just because I've seen the engine of like the Uncharted games and stuff like that, but and Beyond Two Souls looks like something I've never seen before. Alright, the next game on my list is Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, and this is sort of an easy pick just because I like Metal Gear games, but this isn't a stealth game, it's an action game. You play as Raiden. Well, he wasn't a ninja, he was actually the protagonist of, like, he was the protagonist of Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty, and he was kind of like Snake, where he was just, I don't know what you would call him. Like, he was just a guy in a stealth suit that sneaks into a place, like some Black Ops espionage stuff. I don't even know what you would refer to what they do as. But he eventually turned into a cyborg in Metal Gear Solid 4, and this is story-wise a sequel to Metal Gear Solid 4, but a completely different type of game. It's an action-oriented game, and it's made by the people who made Bayonetta, which I love. I don't expect this game being bad. If you like action games, you should definitely check into this. Alright, next on my list is Crysis 3. I mean, if you play Crysis 1 or 2, it's kind of an open-ended sandbox game. You have this suit that's able to put shields on your cloaking device. You can modify your weapons. I did like Crysis 3. Sorry, let me correct myself once more. I did like Crysis 1 more than Crysis 2. Crisis 1 took place on a huge island, kind of like Far Cry. It was kind of a spiritual successor to Far Cry. Far Cry 2 wasn't even out yet. Like, Ubisoft actually makes the Far Cry games now. Like, Crytek actually made the first Far Cry, and then they went to Crisis. The reason why I didn't like Crisis 2 as much, I did like Crisis 2, so don't get me wrong, is that it took place in a linear New York, and I thought that was just because that they were putting the game on consoles. But when they eventually released Crisis 1, which I did play the PC version, so I can tell the difference. I mean, the graphics aren't obviously as good as the PC version, but they actually have a playable console version, and it was really open-ended. It was really cool. And yeah, so the third one basically takes the concept of playing as in New York, and I guess because the alien contaminated the planet or whatever, it's supposed to be overgrown with vegetation and stuff like that. So it kind of combines the open world jungle kind of feel of Crisis 1 with New York from Crisis 2, and I look forward to it. Next on my list is Dead Island Riptide. As you may have saw, excuse me, on my channel, I like Dead Island a lot. Dead Island to me is like Skyrim with zombies. And it's a sequel. I don't know that much about it beside there's a lot more water and you're on a boat, and I like the first game. I don't have that much information beside that, but I heard you get more ammunition. So I guess it's more action packed, and I guess the water effects and stuff are supposed to be better, so I imagine swimming and being on boats and stuff like that, because it's supposed to be after this bad storm, and it takes directly after the first game. So I'm looking forward to it, just on the merits of I really loved the first game, and even if it's a rehash, I'll be happy. That's all I have to say about that. Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2, again, there's not a lot to tell you about this game because I've only seen 2 trailers of it, but I guess you continue playing as Dracula. I didn't really like the first Castlevania Lords of Shadow as much, so I'm hoping this goes back to the roots. And the last trailer I saw, it actually takes place during modern times, like the ending of Castlevania Lords of Shadow showed like at the end of the game. So Lords of Shadow 2, like you're Dracula and you're powerful, and I didn't hate the first game, but it didn't feel like Castlevania, and this will either be a good action game or a good Castlevania action game, and I hope it's the latter, and I'm looking forward to it because I'm really curious. Last on my list is so obvious. I love Grand Theft Auto 4. I love Grand Theft Auto 4's expansion packs and Grand Theft Auto 5, and it kind of takes place in, I guess it's still San Andreas. I don't know, but they said it's bigger than like Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto 4 combined. So I'm guessing this huge level has airplanes. You play as 3 characters that switch roles depending on what they're doing. I'm curious how that's gonna work out, but I loved San Andreas, and to have like an updated version of San Andreas the way that Grand Theft Auto 4 updated Grand Theft Auto 3's Liberty City, I'm totally looking forward to it, and I don't even have to guess that I'm gonna like it. I know I'm probably going to love it. I might sound biased, but Rockstar hasn't let me down yet unless they come out with a terrible port on the PS3. Then I'll be pretty pissed, because they haven't been the best about porting stuff on the PS3. Like Max Payne and Red Dead Redemption, they actually took some stuff out, and I hope that they don't do that with this. So here's to good porting, multi-platform porting. I hope they do a decent job, and I'm really looking forward to it, like with the airplanes and climbing the mountains, the wilderness highways and everything like that, instead of being stuck in one city. And I'm looking forward to it, and that's all I have to say about that. So yeah, tell me what your 10 games are that you're looking forward to, like next year, or tell me what your favorite games of this year was. I don't know, just comment, be social. But I think I've talked long enough. I apologize if I stuttered or stalled a little bit. I don't know why I always apologize, really, because nobody's perfect. But I know I've been doing this for a year or so, but I still feel fairly new about it. And even though I'm talking to a microphone, I feel like there's 1,200 people in front of me. So I apologize if it wasn't as smooth as possible. But anyway, guys, I hope you have a good rest of the year, and I will talk to you guys later, and hopefully there'll be new videos soon. I know I haven't commented a lot on videos, and that's just because I either have the option to put up a new video or I'm stuck doing something else. So I'll try to get to your videos without just clicking like, because I really want to watch them, and that's why it's taking so long. And if I don't comment on your video, I apologize. Check Twitter though, because that'll show like at least like I liked your video or something like that. And if I haven't gotten to it, it's nothing personal or anything like that. I don't know why I'm like over explaining myself, but yeah. And hopefully at the end of this video I'll remember to put down the information, but it's easier to follow me when I put up a new video or when I like somebody else's stuff. I'm not too familiar with the new YouTube format because I haven't messed with it too much, but so hopefully I'll get used to it and work on that a little bit. I'm sorry that I didn't get to film this. I was having camera difficulties, so this video will probably be more like a podcast, but that's kind of good in the way that you could turn it on and do something else except vacuum, because then you couldn't hear me. But or anything that's loud. Why I needed to say that, I don't know, I felt obligated. But anyway, guys, thanks for, I guess, listening. I usually say thanks for watching, but thanks for listening. And again, I hope you guys have the rest of the good year, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys next time, hopefully on a new video. Alright guys, take care. Bye.